Exactly.
Joining us now, the chairman of the Democratic National Committee, Ken Martin. He has been on the road in a series of get out the vote stops ahead of today's elections. Ken, good to have you back on the show. We got a report from Virginia. Let's talk about New Jersey for a moment. That race much closer than I know you or any Democrat wants it to be. Mikey Sherrill, the congresswoman, has a small lead in most polls. What do you think will be decisive there in New Jersey?
Well, first, thanks for having me on this morning. And look, we're confident but not complacent. We're going to do everything we can over these next remaining hours left, both in New Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, California, and around the country to make sure Democrats win up and down the ballot. In New Jersey specifically, and I heard you mention the early vote just a moment ago, you know, we actually have a significantly higher firewall that was built into this early vote. Democrats have overperformed in the early vote, actually higher than we had in the last governor's race with Phil Murphy in 2021. And so the Republicans have to dig out of a much deeper hole this morning and throughout the day to actually make up that margin of difference here. And we're confident that Mikey, because of that strong campaign that she's run, is going to prevail tonight. Of course, we always knew it was going to be close. And tonight I'm going to be watching, you know, three counties in particular, Passaic County, Ocean County, and Gloucester County. Those will really be the bellwethers which will determine whether or not Mikey's going to get across the finish line. But all indicators right now, I was on the ground with her in the campaign over the last week, and I can tell you there's a lot of energy and excitement for her campaign. Her message is resonating with New Jerseyans, and Jack Ciattarelli has just not really connected with New Jerseyans the way that I think Republicans have thought. And, you know, certainly there's an anti-Trump sentiment out there, don't get me wrong, but I think what's happening across the country is Americans are actually responding to the economic message that Democrats are putting forward. Both Mikey Sherrill and Abigail Spanberger have been focused on affordability, on an economic agenda that gives people a sense that their better days are ahead of them.
So, Ken, if Mikey Sherrill were to win in New Jersey, big if still this morning, if Abigail Spanberger were to win in Virginia, what message do you think that would send about the state of our politics right now?
Well, it sends a big message to Donald Trump and the Republicans that we're coming for them. Well, we are going to win the midterms in 2026. You know, look, we only need 3 seats to win back the U.S. House of Representatives, as you know. And the average swing in a congressional midterm election for the party out of power is 26 seats. That spikes up to 38 seats when you have a sitting president under 50%. And just yesterday, Donald Trump hit his lowest mark yet in his second term at 37% approval. Clearly, Americans are frustrated right now with this disastrous administration and their policies, which are actually making it much more difficult for Americans to for their lives. And as a result, they're fleeing the Republican Party. Independent voters are breaking 2-to-1 for Democrats right now. A lot of the gains that Donald Trump made last year with key constituencies of the Democratic Party have disappeared. The Latino voter has swung heavily back our way. Women, young voters, working class voters have all come back to the Democratic Party. The message tonight is, look, the early exaggerated reports of the demise and death of the Democratic Party are deeply exaggerated. And tonight we're going to have a huge night, and it's a message to the Republicans. Watch out. Here come the Democrats.
So, Ken, in terms of watching out, here come the Democrats, have you picked up anything from the Mamdani campaign in terms of social media, in terms of the candidate's conduct? He's always smiling, making people happy, just in his appearance. Have you picked up anything that you think might be useful going forward for the Democratic Party?
Well, I've said this before, even on this show, that I think one of the lessons of Mamdani is not ideological, as much as people want to make a big deal about the ideological divisions within the Democratic Party. There's a lesson for all candidates on the ballot. First off, authenticity matters. People have a bullshit meter in this country. They can smell through it, right, when you're fake. You know, one of my old mentors used to say you should never separate the life you lead from the words you speak. And they can tell that Mamdani is a true believer, and he is running on a positive message. He's running for something. He's not just running against something. He's giving people a values proposition. Here's what you get if you vote for me as the next mayor of New York City. Second, as I've always said is he's ubiquitous. You can't go throughout New York City, whether you're walking throughout New York City, without running into his campaign in some way. They're very visible. They're talking to voters everywhere, and that's the same in those digital spaces. You know, look, I would encourage all Democrats right now not just to run against Donald Trump. Of course, we have to resist Trump with every fiber of our being because he's shredding the Constitution in front of our eyes. But if that's all we do, then we're not giving the American people a sense of what we are, who we're fighting for, and why. And I think that's what Mamdani and that's what Mikey Sherrill and that's what Abigail Spanberger have done so brilliantly this year. There is a through line between all those candidates despite their differences, and it's that they focused on a positive message on how to actually make it more affordable for people to live their lives, get ahead, and actually achieve the American dream.
DNC Chair Ken Martin, thank you very much for your insights this morning.